Good morning, gamers! It is a great time to talk about the Resident Evil 4 remake because not only has it been confirmed, revealed, we have a bunch of new gameplay, a bunch of new screenshots, and honestly, a concrete release date, which is March of next year. I'm still completely losing my mind, like a lot of the internet is, because this is just such a hyped project, but I want to go through everything that seems to be making this a very different game than we originally got. Good morning. Please, if you could do me a favor, like this video. Let's see if we can get this to 2,000 likes. Also, subscribe if you haven't already. Hello. In case you have no idea, I am DreamcastGuy. I'm the biggest fan in the world of Resident Evil and Final Fantasy. That's my two favorite stuff on the entire planet. In fact, way long ago, I used to try and be a Resident Evil speedrunner. Before I even got my teeth replaced, there are videos on this channel of me just trying to beat Resident Evil games, sometimes 10 times a day, to be the best of the best of the best. So when I say I'm hyped for the Resident Evil 4 remake, I absolutely mean it. But today, what I want to begin with is this very interesting post over on the PlayStation blog before we start to analyze some of the stuff that Capcom themselves sent me. So here we go. Resident Evil 4 comes to the PlayStation 5 next year. First, gameplay and story details. Now, this is on the PlayStation blog, but it's been confirmed this is not going to be a PlayStation exclusive. It's going to be on Xbox. It's going to be on PC. You're going to see a lot of Resident Evil 4 Remake very, very soon. But now let's take a look at this. Hello, PlayStation fans. We're excited to finally speak about Resident Evil 4. This is a remake of the 2005 game Resident Evil 4. When it first came out, RE4 revolutionized the Resident Evil franchise with its new game style that combined action, shooting, resource management elements, and subsequently setting the standard for future Resident Evil titles. Now right here, this is something I do want to point out. There seems to be a tiny bit of confusion on the internet because each of these new Resident Evil remakes that have been coming out over the course of this last couple of years, each time they just called them the original title. Like the Resident Evil 2 remake is just called Resident Evil 2. RE3 remake, again, just called Resident Evil 3. But now, the reason they're doing this is because internally, Capcom has said the point is to redo the original series and make this the real Resident Evil 4, to make that the real Resident Evil 3. And for the most part, I do feel like they've nailed this aesthetic. I do think they've managed to re-envision, reimagine, and remake the idea of these games from the ground up. But now this brings us to the more interesting quality of it that has me the most hyped as a fan. This time the game is being developed to achieve state-of-the-art quality for a survival horror suitable to 2023 while preserving the essence of the original game. We aim to make the game feel familiar to fans of the series while providing a fresh feeling to it. Now this line right here completely sings home the point of a lot of the leaks, which is the fact that it sounds like Capcom wants this to be a much more terror-focused experience, making it more scary, more crazy, more epic than the old version of Resident Evil 4 was. You see, as somebody that grew up with Resident Evil, the first games, Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3, those games were so freaking terrifying that back in the day, there were people that straight up said you couldn't play it. Like, there were people that were saying it was too scary to beat Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 and Code Veronica. But then, when Resident Evil 4 came out, it was definitely the first very approachable entry. All of a sudden, there's ammo all over the place. The monsters are more goofy at times because they are just dudes wearing normal clothes, not covered in blood and stuff. I felt like that was cool, but I'm curious to see how they're going to take this back to a more terrifying centric focus of Resident Evil 4. This is being done by reimagining the storyline of the game while keeping the essence of its direction, modernizing the graphics, and updating the controls to a modern standard. Now, I want to actually just pull up a random tweet here that I feel like gives us the biggest hint as to why. If you're curious and if you're concerned, I have seen some people saying they're actually worried about the Resident Evil 4 remake for two separate reasons. I've seen some people say they're scared because, honestly, Resident Evil 4 is still such a spectacular game. Resident Evil 4 has aged incredibly well. Like, the controls are still good, the menus are still good, Mercenaries mode is still completely epic. So the fact that they're trying to do what is arguably the best game ever, again, has some people a bit concerned, but this is what puts my mind at ease. This is Capcom Dev Team 1. From everyone at the development team, thank you for the support and amazing feedback on the announcement of Resident Evil 4. We're currently working hard to make a game that we hope you will enjoy. Now, this is very interesting. Stay tuned for more news. Capcom Dev Team 1 is, by most people's standards, this is their big AAA crazy banger squad. Capcom Dev Team 1 makes some very good games that are extremely spooky, that are extremely loved. Well, the fact that they're working on it specifically, these are the guys that worked on the previous Resident Evil remakes. So they're essentially confirming this is going to be another game in that vein. Now, certain animations you've seen in the trailer, like, Leon walking along and pushing open a door and stuff, some of this stuff looks very, very gameplay focused already. I've seen some people saying they don't consider the Resident Evil 4 remake trailer to even be gameplay. I think all of this is not only in engine, I think this is the game. I think you're looking at an actual chunk of the opening of Resident Evil 4 remake. In fact, I found this interesting comparison where people are even able to take exact shots from the original Resident Evil 4 and directly compare them to the trailer of Resident Evil 4 Remake. I think we're seeing the opening freaking hour of the game in this trailer. And I mean, these new graphics are just jaw-dropping. But let's go back to this. What I find definitely the most interesting to this as a hardcore fan is they're focusing a lot more in this remake, it seems like, on the idea that Leon is not completely there. Leon is a very broken dude at times. He's a fun hero. He's got a great sense of style. I mean, that jacket, oh, damn, that boy looked like he got some fresh fashion. But he is a guy who has chosen to try and save the president's daughter. This guy is great at getting into and out of some of the worst situations on the planet, but that's going to eventually break your brain. Like, actually keep in mind the true implications here. Not only has Leon survived the Raccoon City incident, he is one of the only survivors. 4 people lived through the Raccoon City incident. Millions of people were nuked off the face of the earth after being eaten by zombies in front of this dude. He's got some freaking problems. I'm curious to see how that's going to manifest inside of the Resident Evil 4 remake. Now, I want to actually take a look at this. Capcom sent me a ton of screenshots that are in 4K, like, you can zoom in to a crazy degree. Obviously, this is the symbol of the cult of Los Illuminados. Now, scrolling through these here, all of these screenshots are incredibly detailed, just in general. It's crazy that I can see like the reflection inside of her eye. But while I was glancing at these, something that really kind of struck my mind initially is just the fact that it seems like they're trying to make it so this seems more focused on the heart and soul, more about the idea of what Leon is trying to do, what's on the line if we fail. But also additionally, while looking at these, you can see the environmental details also more of a focus. So in the original game, the Ganados, the zombie-like people who are filled with Las Plagas, these people, in case you haven't played Resident Evil 4, these people, they're not really dead. They're alive, but they're infected by these tiny little mind-controlling worms. They're just normal people, normal men and women who have unfortunately turned to be very violent because of these parasites. I think they're trying to lean more into the idea that this is a very scary story, and not just because you're trapped with a bunch of monsters. It's scary because something here is wrong on a deep biological level. Now, God, I love all these screenshots so much. It's so freaking cool to just see that they're leaning so much into the spookiness. This, I think, is straight up the opening shot of the game itself. This is something we saw originally. Now, when you first played Resident Evil 4, not only did you stumble into a house and ask for directions very foolishly, but what kind of struck me is that when this scene first happens, it's obviously in broad daylight. It's a casual Leon nicely asking for help, and he ends up being attacked because of it. You can see here is the second floor window he ends up jumping out of. Like, this seems like the original shot from Resident Evil 4, just completely modernized to heck. Gosh, all of this stuff looks so incredibly good, and the fact that it's coming out so freaking soon makes me incredibly hyped. As a fan of Resident Evil, especially Resident Evil 4, I have no concerns, I have no fears. I think this is exactly the game that fans deserve. This is what we asked for. It's more fear, it's more epicness, it's more chances to see Ada Wong. Now, my only curiosity is, are we going to see the cut content? There was originally going to be a very different version of Resident Evil 4 called RE 3.5, also known as Hookman, where Leon was going to be infected and slightly going crazy. It's an interesting twist of a game. It was an interesting twist of a game. But I'm just not sure that Capcom honestly has the cojones to do something like that now. Can they really mess with our mind? Can they scare us psychologically, horror-wise, just environmentally? Are they willing to fire on all cylinders and make this the craziest, goriest, most insane freaking Capcom ever? We're going to find out, but right now, to say I'm hyped is an understatement. I hope we get a demo. I hope we get to play this game as soon as possible. It is going to be a great time. No matter where you play it, this is a giant win in my book. But please tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big old thumbs up. Please have a great day and keep dreaming. I'm actually recording this video before the sun is even up. This is true. It's 7 a.m. Look at this. I am not sleeping enough. I'm too excited. I'm too excited.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.